As Israel breaks the ceasefire in Gaza and resumes its brutal bombardment, a group of lawyers have launched an international campaign to bring the perpetrators of the genocide to justice.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered the Israeli military to fully break the ceasefire in Gaza. In the space of a few hours, over 350 Palestinians were killed without warning, without shelter, and without any means of escape from Israel's relentless military assault. I have seen the images, child after child lifeless. Their only crime was being born Palestinian. These are not battlefield casualties, these are war crimes. We are prepared to take direct legal action without involving the police at all against British citizens who have joined the IDF or who are otherwise implicated in war crimes in Gaza and the West Bank.
I'm joined now by one of the lawyers at the heart of this campaign, Taib Ali from the International Centre of Justice for Palestinians. Great to have you with us today.
Hi, thanks very much.
Taib, I know one of your focuses of this campaign is British nationals serving in the IDF. And at Declassified, we found there were over 80 people falling into that category. And yet the Foreign Office, it has this data, but it doesn't seem to do anything to stop those people going out to fight in Israel even now. Does that concern you?
It does astonish me that not even just on the basis of the fact that these individuals might be going out there and participating in potential war crimes, but it's really not good for Britain to have British people go to a foreign country, engage in warfare and whatever dispute or issue or conflict or whatever you want to call it is going on there, and then bring all of that heartache and hardship back to the United Kingdom.
I've served now in 4 campaigns. The Israeli army is now expressing that desire to really put an end to this chapter and an end to Hamas rule in the Gaza Strip.
And that really isn't useful for Brits to do, particularly when you might say that there's different communities in the United Kingdom that might be on different sides in that foreign war. There really is a responsibility for the British government to ensure that that type of breakdown in our cohesion in the United Kingdom doesn't happen. So just on that basis. Secondly, you've got individuals going across to a foreign state, potentially committing war crimes, and then being welcomed back into the United Kingdom as if they haven't done anything wrong. I mean, that really is unacceptable. And it says a lot about the British government's position, its own position, on whether or not it actually agrees with what these individuals are doing. I mean, there's one thing in saying that they're going to Israel to act in acts of self-defense, for example, but where it's so clear, where there's an arrest warrant for Netanyahu and Gallant, it's so clear that war crimes are being perpetrated. Is the British government saying that it's okay for them to go there and participate in war crimes? Is that the message they're sending to people?
Do you talk to one another?
Oh, definitely, yeah. We'd go and help them, and we're trying to be their friends. We bring them food. We just want to make them feel comfortable. That's the first thing we want to do. And for us, it's sad to see this situation as well.
Last year, you issued a complaint against former ministers from the Conservative government for complicity in war crimes. How seriously do you think the Met Police is taking that case in terms of the resources and the seniority of staff that they've allocated to it?
Well, they are taking it seriously. And the reason I know they're taking it seriously is because they haven't dismissed it. And the complaint is still being considered by Scotland Yard's War Crimes Unit. I'm not satisfied at the response that the police are taking. There is no reason already they could not have made a decision about those particular complaints and acted on them. Now, my position is this, that we will give them a little bit more time to make a decision about those complaints, but we won't give them very much more time. You heard today me talk about private arrest warrants. Now, if the police fail to act on those complaints that they have already, we will be converting those complaints into private arrest warrant applications for those 5 British former ministers and officials, and applying for arrest warrants in British courts for them. And failing that, this is also an important issue of complementarity for the United Kingdom. We are a Rome Statute member, which means we have an obligation to investigate, arrest, prosecute, and also transfer to the ICC individuals responsible for war crimes. Now, it's a big failure of the United Kingdom if they don't investigate or act on these complaints, on this credible evidence and these credible complaints. And what that means is the United Kingdom as a state, because it's failing to meet its obligations under the Rome Statute, might itself find that the ICC is forced to open an examination into the conduct of the United Kingdom as a state.
And something that we've noticed again at Declassified is there seems to be a steady stream of Israeli generals being invited to the Ministry of Defence in London almost on a monthly basis for various meetings. And we've actually found out about some of these meetings and gone down there and doorstepped the generals. But we found that they've had a form of temporary diplomatic immunity called special mission certificates that would make it very difficult for an arrest warrant to be issued against them while they're here. Is that the kind of political manoeuvring that you think you might run up against in this campaign in the UK specifically?
I mean, I recognise the concept of special mission immunity, and I recognise that the concept was dealt with in the High Court in the United Kingdom. I don't think the British government's position on special mission immunity is correct. I think that is based on what we call international customary law, and you'll find that if you look at special mission immunity across the globe, more countries deny that special mission immunity is a viable protection for individuals than people that think that it is. It's interesting that the alignment kind of goes with Western countries that are engaged in war crimes seem to think that it's okay, and countries that aren't engaged in war crimes of that nature don't think it's okay. So we will be looking carefully at the legislation behind special mission immunity. But don't forget, in 2009, when the Zippy Livni arrest warrant was enacted against a former foreign minister, there was no issue of immunity for her then. And these generals that may be in active service and may be on some kind of mission with the United Kingdom, they will become civilians at some point. They will retire. Politicians will become civilians at some point, as the Conservative government ministers that we've issued a complaint against have found out. When they're in that position, this immunity falls by the wayside. And also, if the ICC decides to issue arrest warrants for these individuals, special mission immunity is meaningless. So we have to watch that very carefully as well. And it's our job to make sure that, notwithstanding whatever protection a government gives to an individual, we push the evidence forward, we apply for the arrest warrants, we obtain the arrest warrants, and we can argue about special mission immunity in a court after that.
What do you think the reaction is going to be like, both in the Israeli government and society, to the litigation that you're doing and this issue of special immunity as well?
Well, I think the Israeli government's going to be quite upset about what we're doing. But in actual fact, it shouldn't be. Because if the Israeli government considers its soldiers and its military personnel and command structure all the way through from Netanyahu right down to an IDF soldier has not participated in war crimes and is justified in its action, surely it should be welcoming this kind of initiative so that it can be tested in a court of law. And complementarity is a really important issue for Israel. Israel should actually be investigating these things itself. It should be finding people or soldiers that have been, where there's been allegations of war crimes and prosecuting them in its own courts. What I would ask is, why is Israel not doing that? Lawyers, legal organizations, and human rights defenders from countries including Malaysia, Namibia, Turkey, Norway, and Canada, Bosnia, and the United Kingdom have united to use every available legal mechanism to hold accountable those suspected of war crimes in Gaza. Our mission is simple. Where international courts fail to act, we will act. When national governments refuse to investigate, we will initiate legal proceedings. Where war criminals believe they can travel freely, we will ensure they face the full weight of the law. The scope of our legal work includes not just IDF soldiers who have fought in the Israeli Defense Forces, but also those in positions of command and influence, senior policymakers, military leaders, and operational personnel who are directly or indirectly responsible for violations of international law. We will investigate and prosecute those in jurisdictions outside of Israel that have supported and been complicit in Israel's war crimes. In the UK, we have already taken significant steps to bring legal action. Last year, we submitted a criminal complaint to Scotland Yard for 5 former government ministers and officials we accuse of complicity in Israel's war crimes. This is still being considered by Scotland Yard's War Crimes Unit. This year, however, we are prepared to take direct legal action without involving the police at all against British citizens who have joined the IDF or who are otherwise implicated in war crimes in Gaza and the West Bank. We will announce within weeks our first private prosecution in a UK court, work that will be replicated across the world. The evidence compiled by ICJP's investigation team is advised by former Metropolitan Police detectives and leading legal experts, and it meets the highest criminal legal standards and is admissible in domestic courts and international courts. Israeli suspected war criminals can no longer consider any location outside of Israel to be a safe space for them. And most importantly, we send a clear message to those that believe they can escape justice. The age of impunity is over. Your actions will have devastating consequences for you. Justice is not an option, it is an obligation. Today, we begin the work to ensure that obligation is met. Thank you.